This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done. This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
WBSM presents The Tim Weisberg Show, streaming live on WBSM.com and the WBSM app. Call 508-996-0500. Send us app chat messages and open line voicemails using the WBSM app. Now, The Tim Weisberg Show.
Welcome back in. 508-996-0500 is the number to call in. App chat and open line voicemail on the WBSM app is a way to text in or record your audio and send it in. We were talking in the first hour about this motion that Councilor at Large Shane Burgo has placed on the City Council agenda for tomorrow night's meeting, in which he wants to have discussions in the committee that he chairs, the Special Committee on Affordable Housing and Homeless Affairs. He wants to send it to his committee to start having discussions about a study that was done by a group called, I want to make sure I get it right, give me 1 second here, the New Bedford Outreach Workers Coalition. And basically what they are saying is, based on the number of homeless people that are in New Bedford during the point-in-time count that was done in 2023, I don't think they have the 2024 numbers yet, but based on that and the fact that there have been multiple encampments that have popped up around the city, people who are living in tents, the idea would be to create an authorized encampment. So rather than breaking up these encampments that they find around the city and saying, you can't be here, they would basically be able to say, you can't be here, but we can point you to the place where you can be. And it would be a place where they could kind of centralize offering services to these folks. Health services, services trying to find them a more permanent housing, and just making sure that they're safe. So yesterday, the council agenda was released for Thursday's meeting. Barry talked about it on the air. He reached out to Councilor Burgo to get him to see if he could come on. Originally, Councilor Burgo said, I'm sorry, I'm at work. I don't have time. I won't be able to. But I plan on explaining in the meeting exactly what it is that we are thinking about this. And then they were able to work it out that he was able to call in for a few moments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play for you the audio from Barry's show yesterday, in which Councilor Burgo appeared with him to discuss this. And then if you miss any part of it, or if you don't get to hear it all, if you want to hear it again, it's in the story at WBSM.com and on the WBSM app, as well as in Barry's podcast from yesterday. But here is Councilor at Large Shane Burgo with Barry Richard yesterday talking about this motion that'll be before the City Council tomorrow.
I get right to Councilor Burgo because I've only got a couple of seconds, but Councilor Burgo is joining me on the hotline right now. Councilor, how are you? I know you've only got a couple of minutes, so I won't keep you.
I'm good.
All right, let me just quickly, because I've got to get out of here for the news in a couple of seconds. You got to get back to work, but before this gets out of control, I don't want anybody accusing you of something that you're not trying to do here. But we did see the article, the motion on Thursday night's agenda, Article 18, where you are asking the council to, allow the committee that you chair on homelessness and affordable housing to hear a report or review a report that recommends encampments in town to help deal with the homeless situation. Is that correct? This is not something you're recommending. Your committee wants to hear more about it. Am I correct?
Correct. So it's just something that we plan to review in committee in hopes that obviously a motion that I plan to present on Thursday in hopes that my colleagues will then refer to my committee to discuss further. It's not something that we plan to enact right away. Anything in government that we know is slow and takes time and takes discussion. This is something that was brought to my attention as something we should consider by a group of people called the New Bedford Outreach Workers Coalition. They have compiled a report which I will submit and will be received and placed on file in my committee. Just if I give a little background, I know we have a little bit of time, a short amount of time, but according to the 2023 point in time count, which aims to count the number of individuals experiencing homelessness within the city borders, there were 373 adults and children who were either sheltered or living on the street. And 67 of those 373 adults are people who are identified as living on the street. We see them, as I'm sure people know, we see them on New Bedford Guide living on Route 18 under the overpasses. We've seen some of them at memorial, sites and other areas, and they're chased away by the Homeless Emergency Assistance Response Team, the HEART protocol. And so the reason why this to me was so important to bring up and actually discuss is because at what point do we say to ourselves, if we're unable to provide these individuals with necessary housing, at what point do we say, okay, well, you can't sleep here and we have no housing for you, where do you go? So I think this is worth the discussion because, of course, no one wants to have tent cities. No one wants to live outside. No one wants people to be congregating and living in tents. But at what point do we not provide somewhere a safe location where we can provide wraparound services and resources to these individuals to make sure that they're safe and protected and that they're not somewhere like on a highway on Route 18 and other locations where they can harm others or be harmed themselves.
So is this a concept that you endorse? Councilor, is this a concept that you endorse?
It is. I will say that, yes.
All right, what about let me ask you, because again, we're really tight on time here, and I know you are as well. Yeah. What about the spillover effects that this could have? For example, health issues and various other things, drugs in the neighborhood, potential crime issues, and so on and so forth. And where in the city would you have that
currently right now with the encampments we already have? This is why I think it's better if we have an encampment that we control, that we facilitate, that because of how many the shelters that we have limited shelters already, and then we already have shelters that are already closing currently. So the limited shelters that we have, then we have shelters closing on top of that. So we have even less beds. So if we can now have a location that we monitor and have, for example, health people there to monitor, if we have public safety officials there to monitor that. Right now, we have encampments set up that we aren't being able to monitor. So this is why I think this is something that we should explore because we already have encampments. If we're able to dismantle the rogue encampments and then set up our own version of it where we are able to monitor to protect people and make sure that they're being safe and that the health and safety of the individuals utilizing it are, as well as the community surrounding it, are safe.
Where would you envision such an encampment? Where would you envision such an encampment?
I think right now, again, there's a lot of discussions that we need to have about it, but one of the locations that are proposed that is a possibility, but again, these are all working discussions, it's not guaranteed, is I believe over near Shawmut Ave area is one of the proposed ideas that have been discussed. There's an open field over there that's now I'm drawing a blank here, but down Shawmut Ave near the waste facility area, there's an open field, which I'm not quite sure if that is owned by the city yet or again, this is why it's going to go to committee.
So you'd be talking like north of Hathaway Road? North of Hathaway Road?
I believe so, yes.
So between Hathaway Road and the airport.
Correctly.
Okay. So
yes,
somewhere in that area.
Over there.
And where would financing for this come from?
Again, how I envision it is it's resources that we already have. When I think about the continuum of care resources that we receive, the funding that we receive for federal funding for these individuals, or even resources from nonprofits like PACA, which already provide services to encampments like the one that was under Route 18. They were providing services to those encampments before they were broken up and asked to leave. So there's already programs that offer services to these encampments, but so there wouldn't be any city funding necessarily that would be going to this. And again, it's very premature for me to have this conversation on air with you. I think it's a perfect time to do it. And I think the last question I have for you, and I got 30 seconds before the news rolls in here. Would you be open to public hearings on this? Of course, sure.
So that the public could weigh in on anything that happens. Okay, Thursday night, 7 o'clock, this comes up for at least the discussion on referral to your committee.
To refer to committee, and then more discussions from there. I want to be very clear on that. This is just an exploration to continue discussions. Thank you, yes.
Councilor Burgo, appreciate you getting in touch with us on short notice, and you came.
All right, and so there you go. That's the discussion between Barry and Councilor Burgo yesterday. Again, you can hear the entire audio and read some of his statements in the story at WBSM.com and on the WBSM app. And let's go to the phone, see what you think about it. 508-996-0500. Good morning. You're on WBSM.
Yeah, good morning, Tim.
How you doing?
You know, what Shane Burgo is proposing is what they've been doing in California and in encampments. And I saw a documentary on different big cities in California, and they interviewed those homeless people that have been living in there. And they said there would be often fights that would break out. There'd be drug use. There'd be dirty needles. And the police would always be called over there to try to break it down. It got to a point where the mayor would just shut it down because it's starting to get bigger and bigger. They couldn't control it. And then not only that, unsanitary conditions. And some of the people had mental issues. They didn't want to get help. So it's not an ideal thing. He might have his heart in the right place, but this is the wrong idea. It didn't work in California, and it's not going to work over here.
Well, I know that in Providence, I think it was Providence or East Providence, they actually went so far as to making one of these encampment type areas, but they made it with actual sheds. They made it with something that was actually a little bit more of a permanent structure. Do you think if there was a more permanent structure that might lead to, a little bit more permanent responsibility of the people living there?
Well, we don't have the revenues. But getting back to California, it would be, old cars, old RVs that no longer were functional. And it got to a point when they asked a lady that's been living there, she was living there for several years, and when the mayor just put an end to it, they told them many of them that had those RVs and those vans and those cars to get out of there. And many of them didn't work. They didn't start, so they would get the tow trucks. So the city was on the dime for getting all those old dysfunctional or not working vehicles out of there.
But, I guess if the city was going to allow for this to happen, the city could set the parameters of what they wanted to allow there from the beginning and say, all we want are, pop-up tents, two-person tents, nothing bigger than a two-person tent. They can maybe set the restrictions of what they want to allow on that site.
Well, some of them would use shopping carriages with pieces of plywood and whatever they found. That idea is not going to work. It's been proven not to work in California. It's not going to work. We don't even have money. We don't have money to pay for our schools. We don't have money for potholes. The mayor says we don't have enough people.
As Councilor Burgo said, the funding for this would be coming from the groups that are already funded to help fight homelessness. So this isn't coming out of the city's coffers.
And who has these groups and where they're getting that money from? George Soros? I don't know where the money's coming from.
PACA and other groups like that have been doing this for years. The same groups that are down there helping people on the street today.
Yeah, NGOs, 501c3s that get taxpayer funded. So either way, whether you're paying federal or state or local taxes, the taxpayer's still on the dime.
Fine. I get that, but the
you know what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but they're already getting that money to help homelessness. They're just using it in this fashion instead of having to go down to downtown and talking to people on the street or going under the overpass and talking to those people here. It's the same funding. They're just utilizing it in one location.
Well, it's going to be...
I was going to say, there's also groups that provide tents for people that are homeless. They just have to be able to find them to be able to give them those tents so that they don't have to overturn shopping carts and use plywood and stuff.
Well, the tent cities are going to get bigger and bigger. They're going to come, and the homeless problem here, some of the people are not even residents of the city. As a matter of fact, some of them come from out of state and they come over here. Once they find out about a tent city, you're going to have more and more. It's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. The thing is, the city can't handle it.
Right.
You might get some money from an NGO or 501c3, which they get a lot of the taxpayer funding, but it's not going to work. Shane Burgo needs to do his homework and find out what happened in California, and it's not going to happen here. We need to help our Americans and stop giving all this money away to help illegal aliens. Let's help our people first, and that's where the problem is, and Shane Burgo doesn't want to talk about that.
All right. You have a good day. And first of all, the whole idea of it didn't work in California, so it won't work here, I don't know that I necessarily believe that. And I'm not saying just for this particular situation, but in general, for anything. Just because something doesn't work somewhere else doesn't mean that you can't take the lessons learned from that and apply it here. And make the necessary changes and and also I want to point out too, this is just to have a discussion. So what the caller was saying that, they need to look into this, that'll be part of these discussions. This isn't a vote tomorrow night to approve this, to put it forward. This is a vote to begin the process of discussing it in the committee. 508-996-0500. Good morning. You're next on WBSM.
Good morning, Mr. Weisberg.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right. What's on your mind?
Well, I agree with that last caller. Really, that's what I was calling to say. It's never going to work like that. And there's a big majority of those people homeless on the streets here downtown. They don't even want to be in a safe place. I don't think that's ever going to work. You're going to have them all in one place. They'll be arguing, "Oh, buddy, you got a cigarette?" They're going to be fighting about stuff. Give me this, give me that. They like it out where they are. They're used to it. They don't know. You remember that guy Clyde in the wheelchair down on the Ave? I mean, they set him up with an apartment. They gave him clothing, food. They gave him a place to lay. It was a nice apartment, furniture and all. Do you know he was back on the street? It did not last long. He never kept it clean. He didn't care. He didn't even go home half the time. He was still pooping behind the gas station, the 7-Eleven and everything. The cops were always there. Some people, that's all they know. Now, when they get older, the younger generation that's out there downtown, they like it because they're out there panhandling, getting money and borrowing stuff from people and getting meals from people. But when they start getting older, trust me, I know how I feel right now, and I would not want to be out there. And not to say I'm happy where I am either. We got crazy rules here kind of tying you down, too. You don't have a lot of freedom over here in this building. So even if they took some of those homeless and put them into an apartment building, they wouldn't be happy because they start telling you what to do. They took away our library when COVID came around. Well, we thought, okay, it was COVID. They'll put the library back. No, we had a couple of computers down there that people who didn't have any laptops, they could go down there and use it. We had a whole big wall shelf full of nice books, and they took everything away. We're not allowed in there at all now. The books are completely gone. You used to be able to go into the community room with a cup of coffee and a donut and talk to the neighbors that are coming down from the apartments in the morning. That's all gone because you can't go in there with a cup of coffee. Now you're restricted only to the dining room, and that depends if they want to unlock the door if they feel like it. There's a lot of rules going on here, too, that I'm not happy with. I still would rather be here than on the street. But like I said, there's a majority out there that don't want to be in a decent place. They don't. So this is an encampment again. It's not an apartment we're talking about here, right?
Right. So it would be, instead of having multiple encampments around the city, they would all be directed to one location where they could pitch their tent and live.
I don't see how you think that can work, Mr. Weinberg. You really think that's going to work? It might
don't know.
A little bit in the beginning. I don't think that is going to. They're used to being out in the streets. They're not going to just go running over there every night.
Well, I think
they have somewhere to sleep.
Well, I think the idea is that it's the people who are already camping in other places, instead of camping in those other places, camping in this location. So instead of sleeping under the overpass and under in a tent, you'd be sleeping in this field in a tent.
Well, that's not going to help the ones that are around here downtown. They're still going to be out here, and that's nasty. This is why I don't go downtown. They're asking you for money. They come up to you naturally. They kind of have an odor because they don't wash up. I mean, it's sickening. I don't go downtown, and I would love to take a walk downtown. I stopped doing that a long time ago. And what better place to be than hanging around downtown? Because that's a business area. They know there's people going to be coming in and out of stores, and there's a lot of people there where they can ask for money.
Well, and
it is a sad thing.
There's nothing that says that people that are staying in tents over by the airport wouldn't be going downtown doing those same things.
But they have their hangout that they used to. They have their own hangouts in different places. The ones that I see downtown when I'm driving by, they're the same people all the time, every day, every morning, same thing, and they're right in front of the city hall too. I mean, they don't care. They're used to it. Somebody who's hanging around way up at the north end is not going to come down here downtown. Maybe once in a while. They have their hangout. If they all have to go to that one new place, it's not going to last. Because wherever they are in the city, they have to make their way all the way over there. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it.
I got to hold you there.
Have a great day. Thank you.
You as well. And caller, hang on. We will get to you. I just got to take a break here before we go to the news. We might have to take you after the news, just so you know. But we'll be back in just a few moments. All right. Caller, hang on. We will get to you as soon as we are done with the news, and room for you as well at 508-996-0500. But right now, I've got to turn things over to Phil Devitt in the WBSM newsroom.
Trump's hush money trial is almost in the jury's hands. Devastation in Iowa after a powerful tornado. And new meal options for people on weight loss drugs.
From the WBSM Newsroom, this is WBSM News.
Former President Trump's criminal hush money trial is over for the week. Judge Juan Merchan said he plans on getting the final instructions to the prosecution and defense by the end of Thursday. This is a key part of the trial in that it focuses on what the jury can consider to be a crime. Trump is accused of falsifying business records to cover up an alleged sexual encounter with adult film actress Stormy Daniels in 2006. President Biden is going after Trump over his, quote, unified Reich video. The president spoke at two fundraisers in Boston on Tuesday and brought up a video that Trump shared on social media alluding to Nazi Germany. Biden also released a short campaign video.
What's next for America?
Is this on his official account? Wow. A unified Reich? That's Hitler's language. That's not America's. He cares about holding on to power. I care about you.
At one Boston stop, Biden said it wasn't the first time Trump has, quote, gone down this road, and that, quote, the threat Trump poses is greater the second time around than it was the first. The video has since been removed from Trump's Truth Social account. Multiple deaths are being reported in Iowa after a tornado ripped through the town of Greenfield. Dave Swanson talks about widespread tornado damage.
Multiple buildings destroyed, all the way from the fairgrounds to houses on the south end of town. Oh, my goodness
sake. Like a freight train.
Yeah, everybody says it sounds like a freight train, and it sounded like a freight train.
The Iowa State Patrol says numerous fatalities have been confirmed in the town southwest of Des Moines, but that the exact number isn't expected to be released until later today. Voters went to the polls in Georgia, where Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis emerged victorious in her Democratic primary. Willis is handling the election interference case against former President Trump. The judge overseeing the Trump case, Scott McAfee, was also projected to win his race. All 9 South Dakota Native American tribes have officially voted in favor of banning Governor Kristi Noem from their lands. The move comes after the Republican made several remarks about the tribes, including that their children have no hope and that Mexican cartels are using reservations to facilitate drug trafficking. New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers says he chose playing football over running for vice president. Mark Mayfield fills us in.
Talking to reporters on Tuesday, Rodgers said he had two options, either continue his career in the NFL or retire and be the running mate for third-party candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Rodgers said he wanted to keep playing football. He added he loves Kennedy Jr., and they had a couple of really nice conversations. I'm Mark Mayfield.
And Nestle is coming out with a new food line aimed at people who use weight management drugs such as Ozempic and Wegovy, called Vital Pursuit. The company says it's designed to offer a balanced diet for people looking for weight-friendly meals. The foods will feature high-protein meals and frozen options such as pasta, sandwich melts, and pizza. It'll be on sale in the U.S. early next year.
WBSM Sports.
The Celtics beat the Indiana Pacers in Finals Game 1, 133-128. Game 2 Thursday night in Boston. The Red Sox beat the Tampa Bay Rays 5-2, wrap their 3-game series tonight in Florida.
Now, your ABC6 South Coast forecast, brought to you by C Street.
Wednesday will be full of sunshine. It will be very warm, though. Temperatures will top out well into the 80s, but much cooler along coastal areas. Winds will be out of the southwest at 5 to 15. For tonight, increasing clouds, patchy fog developing near dawn. Your overnight low will be near 59. And for Thursday, we're going to start with fog and a chance of showers. And then we'll go to a mix of sun and clouds. It will be muggy with a chance of a late-day shower or thunderstorm. From the ABC6 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Kelly Bates on New Bedford's News Talk Station, 1420 WBSM.
This WBSM News Update is brought to you by Stevie's Wine and Spirits. Look for the purple dot to try before you buy. Only at Stevie's Wine and Spirits in Fairhaven. I'm Phil Devitt for WBSM News. Stay up to date with New Bedford's News Talk Station, WBSM, and get all of our content and breaking news alerts with the WBSM app.
All right, welcome back in. Let's go right back to the phones. 508-996-0500. Good morning. You're next on WBSM.
Hey, good morning.
How you doing?
Not too bad. So if you direct the homeless people to any given area, you're going to have to provide them security in that area. You're going to have to make sure that they're safe in that area. It's going to be a problem. I mean, there's a lot of mental health and drugs, and a lot of these homeless people, they are where they are because that's where they want to be. That's why they're scattered all over the city. So if you congregate all of the resources in one given area, that means whoever decides that they're not going there is going to have nothing.
Well, but do you think that they are where they are because they choose to be there, or they are where they are because they think that's where they can get away with being and not be caught?
Oh, it could very well be, but for the same reason, they're not going to want to be in any area where they can be overlooked. I mean, a lot of these people are homeless because they won't even go to a homeless shelter because they've got to stay sober.
I mean, in this particular case,
not going to do that.
Councilor Burgo did mention, having public safety officials monitoring what goes on in this encampment. So I guess, there would be some sort of, I don't know if it would be a constant presence, but there would certainly be some sort of, police monitoring of the situation to make sure there's no incidents going on. Right,
and that's why they're not going to go there. They won't go there. They don't want to be part of that. That's like I said. They won't go to a homeless shelter when it's snowing outside because they don't want to sober up.
Well, I don't know. Would that be an enforceable thing? Would that be something that if they had a police presence there at this encampment, could they say you're not allowed to be intoxicated here?
Yeah, and they'll kick them out.
But what if they did?
They do at the homeless shelter. The homeless shelter, if you go in there high, they won't let you in.
Well, but that's understandable. That's a little bit of a different situation. You're enclosed with other people in that building.
Well, you're also enclosed in that whole area too. It's the same thing. I mean, it's like when they had all those big storms and they asked everybody to go to the football stadiums and people got raped in there, and I mean it's very similar. I mean, you have to provide them safety while they're in there. Was it the Astrodome they did that?
No, the Superdome in New Orleans.
I don't know. It was a dome. So yeah, I don't see how that's going to work. I mean, it's all good intentions, but I mean, when you boil it all down, they're where they are because for whatever reason they have support where they are, or they have little cliques and.
And I guess my suggestion to that, or my answer to that would be, and again, I'm just trying to talk out all the points. I don't feel one way or the other on it. But I would guess that the people who don't want to go would still be camping where they are, and then they would just run the risk
without
of
the resources.
They
would lose the support because the support would be.
You're making. No, you're making the assumption that it's either or. That doesn't mean that.
Okay, well,
doesn't mean that they won't offer them something, but it does mean they'll still be at risk of having the police come and telling them they have to move along.
Oh, for sure, and the businesses too. Like if you let's say just whatever that area is, for instance. I mean, you've got all those businesses over there. They're not going to want to tolerate, a congregation of homeless people in the area. You're going to have them roaming around the Symposium and up Mount Pleasant and McDonald's and.
Well, I would worry about an increase of foot traffic trying to cross the halfway road there, where there's already some issues.
Yeah. I don't know.
Just to be fair, though, to point out, Councilor Burgo said he doesn't even know if the city owns that property yet. That's just something that was thrown out as a suggestion.
Yeah, no, I think everybody got that. I think the location is irrelevant. If you try to bring them all together, you're gonna. I mean, you've got what is that? The big development on Church Street. It used to be Evergreen Park. Do you remember that?
I don't know all the different ones one from the other.
They remodeled the whole thing, and I think it's mostly empty.
Yeah, I mean,
if I'm not mistaken. It's huge. It's massive.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, you have a great day.
You as well. Take care. If you want to call in, 508-996-0500. Got a message from Carol Ann who says, my 2 cents, of course we should help the homeless, but I heard Burgo say phrases like this would allow the city to, quote, monitor the situation. And you, meaning me, suggested the city could, quote, put restrictions such as tent size, etc. People housed or unhoused don't want to be monitored, don't want to be restricted. I wish it could work, though. And again, I'm just saying, for logistical purposes, putting a restriction on what you utilize. If you say to somebody, because how is it fair for someone to have an 8-person cabin tent for 2 people to live in when there isn't enough room for a family of 4 to put more than a 2-person tent there? You know what I mean? So I'm just thinking in terms of they would have to have some idea of how to best utilize the space. And things like, taking a shopping cart and overturning it as the caller mentioned, I can't imagine that if there's providers coming to this location, service providers, that they would say, yeah, that's fine. I mean, they would do what they can to get that person a tent. So I think that I think you can have those kind of, not restrictions, but guidelines for what should be there. Especially because, the idea of this is that it's supposed to be temporary. Something that you can pack up and move along if that situation arises. Not, come down and start building yourself a shelter out of wooden tarps and whatever other materials you can gather up. Which is what happens in some of these other encampments. So I think that's kind of what I was thinking about when it comes to restrictions. It's like, you can't build yourself something, and you've got to have something that's legitimate shelter. Obviously, if you want to sleep out in a sleeping bag under the stars, you're welcome to do that, but you're not going to overturn a shopping cart and call that your shelter. And I think if you told a person that was in that situation, there's an unhoused person that's going to live in this encampment, and you said, well, you can either sleep in that overturned shopping cart you just brought over here from Price Right, or we can give you this tent to sleep in, they're probably going to choose the tent. They'll probably be okay with those guidelines if it means you're going to have a better situation out of it. Just a guess. And as Mary pointed out when she called, there are people who just choose to live this way. We had a woman in Wareham for many years, Anne Marie, who everybody knew her. Everybody knew that she didn't live indoors. Her daughter had a house that she was more than welcome to stay and live in, but she didn't want to live under the rules that her daughter would place on her. And I don't know exactly what the issue was. Anne Marie told me one time she wasn't allowed to smoke in the house. I can't imagine that that's what was, the whole issue. But she used to just walk around. She'd walk around all day, find a place to settle down and sleep at night. Usually pitch her little pup tent. And the only time she would look for help is in the wintertime. She would ask for donations for a motel room when it got really cold or snowy. but she was happy to go down to the Wareham River and wash her clothes. She knew what plants to use to wash her clothes, all that kind of stuff. It's just how she chose to live. Nobody forced her not to. 508-996-0500. I think I can take another call here before I have to take a break. Good morning. You next on WBSM.
Hey, what's going on?
What's on your mind?
Yeah, so what happens in the wintertime? You're talking about putting up tents? What are they going to do? Give them space heaters? And what do you expect these people to do? The thing is, liberals come up with these ideas because they sound good and they feel good. But bottom line, you're dealing with a very erratic mindset. There's no solid baseline to establish this whole scenario. It just falls apart because the people, the homeless people, don't have a steady mindset. They want to be free. They want to be able to roam. They're going to go to places where there's resources.
Well, I mean, it's not an internment camp. They're not going to be stuck there. They'll be free to leave and roam around whenever they want.
Yeah, but okay, so what establishments are around this area that they're talking about? There's a McDonald's there, right?
Yep, there's a McDonald's, there's a supermarket, There's a Cumberland Farms.
Right, so those places are now going to be overloaded. Because they're going to do the same thing. They're going to do the same thing that they do downtown, right?
I would assume.
They're going to go to these places. People are going to be coming out of these stores. They're going to be asking them for money. The traffic lights are going to be overloaded with the homeless people begging for money. So whose idea is it that, this is going to work great? We're going to put up a bunch of tents. People are going to hang out with each other.
Well,
we're going to monitor them. We're going to get security.
It came from a study of people who are, the outreach people who handle, helping these folks. So I'm assuming that they've had conversation with these folks to find out if it would be something that would be viable. But again, this is something that hasn't been discussed yet because they have to approve the discussion of having this in the committee meeting.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it sounds good and everything, but, in a perfect world, it might work. But it's not going to work, man. These people, what you have to do, the bottom line, what you have to do with these people, and, it's sad to think that a lot of these people are going to live their whole entire lives this way. You're not going to change their mindset. What you have to do is people have to start getting to the root of what causes these people to be in those situations, and you have to tackle that.
No doubt.
And nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about this being actual, like a mental illness, and get to the source of why they got this way. And that's the problem with society.
But that's also a broad brush. Not everybody that's in that situation has a mental illness.
Well, if you do, I imagine if they, and I'm sure the studies out there that show a lot of them, the majority of them have a mental illness where they can't focus like an everyday person. They can't focus because maybe they weren't brought up in a household where they see that there's an element of habits, good habits. Seeing your mom and dad wake up every day, go to work, take care of you, establish like a baseline that they can work off of, a good foundation for their life. And a lot of these people, if you talk to them, I'll guarantee that they didn't have that. And that's the problem with society. Families are being torn apart,
Some of these homeless folks are families.
Yeah, but you're missing my point.
No, I'm hearing your point, but your point is an oversimplification.
If you got to the root of why these people are on the streets, I guarantee there was a lot of dysfunction in their past, somewhere in their past, and it was probably a lot of these people are from broken families. They don't have a good role models in their lives, so it's caused them to have a mental dysfunction where they're just roaming, not knowing what to do with their lives, where to go, how to properly dysfunction, you know what I mean? So they're all over the place. You can't, these people, the reason why they're downtown and the reason why they're just living on the overpass, because that's what they want to do. They don't want somebody to say, hey, all right, 8 o'clock, you're going to be in this tent city, and you got to stay there. You can leave at 7 in the morning, but make sure you're back here.
I don't think anybody's telling them that. I don't think that that's part of what they're proposing.
Well, that's the idea, man. That's the principle of it all.
You're making a lot of assumptions about people and a lot of assumptions about what the plan is here.
No. I am not, because I know the liberal mindset and I know how they.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, it's a liberal mindset.
They come up with these ideas. Yeah, it's the truth, dude. You don't want to talk about the truth. I
want to talk about the actual truth, not what your opinion of the truth is.
No. Everybody sees it on the news every day, dude. Every single day.
All right, I got to take a break, and you're getting off topic here, so I'm going to hold you there.
No, I'm still on topic, dude. I'm talking about homeless people and why they're on the street.
And you've had plenty of time to talk about it. I've got to take a break now.
Yeah, well, I mean, and now dude, you're part of the problem, is what it is.
All right, I'm part of the problem. I'm absolutely. You know what else? You know what else the problem is too? I got to take a break.
What?
I don't have a choice on that.
All right, buddy. Have a good day.
You as well. All right, 508-996-0500. We have some more calls coming in, and we will take them. But right now, I've got to take that break. We'll be back in a few. And we'll go back to the phones in a second. Meaty in Dartmouth sent an app chat message that says, "You just got super butthurt, LOL." And I responded back. I said, and you felt the need to respond to it. So, seems just as silly. But you know why I get a little bit upset about when people characterize homeless people? Because I was homeless on more than one occasion. So I know a little bit more about what homeless people are compared to somebody who just wants to call in and talk about, the liberal mindset. Listen, I'm not trying to break this down into ideologies. I'm trying to talk about this proposal and whether or not you think it'll work. 508-996-0500. Good morning. You're next on WBSM.
Hi, Tim.
How you doing?
I should say, hi, dude. That guy was a real clown.
Well, no. He had his opinions, and he has a right to them.
Yeah, but all the people that have been called, there's no humanity here at all. I mean, I think it's a good idea, and at least it gives them a chance to be out of downtown and to be somewhere. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a good proposal.
And the question I wanted to ask him, but I didn't get a chance to, was, he says that it's not going to work. Would you be willing to try it? Would you be willing to say we're going to give this a 6-month trial and see what happens?
Right. That would be a fair thing to do. Oh no, it's no chance. It's none of this. Every one of them that have called has been so negative that that's pathetic. Really, I wish we had more compassion really here in the city. So
I just don't like when people make assumptions about who these folks are and what their situations are without knowing about anything. You're just falling into what other people have said.
Right. Some people, it's not because, they've run into some bad luck. It's not all of them that want to be down there doing that. I'm sure of it, So it's just makes you sick to hear it all like that anyways. So
all right. Well,
have a good day.
Thank you. You as well. And if you want to call in, 508-996-0500. You can also send your app chat messages and your open line voicemails in the WBSM app as well. But I think that part of this discussion has to be, part of what I have to keep bringing up in this discussion, because I don't want anybody to get a misrepresentation of what we're talking about here. This is only the beginning stages of discussing this. This is not a vote tomorrow night to enact this. This is not a vote tomorrow night to put this in place. This is not a vote tomorrow night to even, try to go forward in the process. This is just to start having discussions about the possibility in the committee meetings. So this is not anything that will be binding tomorrow. This is not anything that will be starting the ball rolling on making this happen. This is just to have those discussions where a lot of these questions that people have will start to get answered. Caller, hang on. Let me take the final break, which is only a quick one. It's only about a minute and a half. If we have time when we come back, we'll take your call. If not, I'll have you hang on until we start the next hour. But right now, I've got to take that break. We'll be right back.
You see, California, you compare California, but California year-round is warm. They got weather year-round warm. Here we don't. We have, what are you going to do?
I guess it depends where. Like certainly not in San Francisco.
Yeah, but they don't get freezing weather like we do in the wintertime. In the teens, they don't get that. And say, we're talking about what you're going to do in the months of February, January, February, even the end. I know, in those cold months. And you know what they do in California? They do a good thing I like. They bring in a truck with that.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Grainger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.